For several months, folks have been asking about Matt's bags that he carries with us when we go hiking up in the woods, whether we're stalking through the snow or even if it's summertime. He's always prepared when we go into the woods. He goes into the woods a lot more than we do, but when he lets us tag along in our video, people often see the bags he carries and want to know what's in them and kind of what's his favorite things as far as it comes to bushcraft or being in the woods and kind of building fires and doing whatever it is that you would do. So today he's going to share what's in his bags. I guess you could start just by telling us about the bags.
Okay. This one's just a Pathfinder haversack. Comes from Self-Reliance Outfitters. It's waxed canvas. And it's a pretty good size for what I carry in the woods. They make one, I think, that's a size bigger. And I probably kind of would like to have one of those because this one's getting a little full. But anyway, it's a good size bag just for, you know, going out for part of the day or a day when you're not really going to spend the night. It'll carry pretty much what you need. And this one is just a little leather pouch that goes on your belt. And what I keep in it is just my stuff to make fire with. And I also have the same thing in this pack too. So I've got more than one fire kit, and I generally don't use this one, and this is just for an emergency if I don't have anything else. But I like to have more than one way to make a fire.
What's the difference? I mean, I know what the difference is, but what's your favorite? Like the waxed, is that just that sheds water really good?
Yeah, it sheds water, and it's, you know, it's real limber and pliable, and it lays against your body good, and it's very durable, lasts a long time. I just tend to like, and it's an old, you know, that was some of the older ways to waterproof fabric, you know, long before the modern day fabrics came along, like Gore-Tex and all that stuff. This was the way it was done back in the day, and I just kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. And then of course leather is always durable.
Yeah, and I like leather.
Nice that one kind of fits on your belt and you don't have to worry about carrying it.
Right, you just put it on there and forget about it. And like I say, I don't use what's in this very much. I just like to have an emergency kit in case I don't have anything else. I know I'll have that.
Where did you get that little one? Do you remember?
I think it also came from Self-Reliance Outfitters as well.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll move closer and we'll see what you got inside them.
Okay. Alright, so first off is, like I mentioned earlier, I've got a little second fire kit that I carry, and it's in a little metal tin can wrapped in tape. And I just do that to keep the lid from coming off. And when we open it up, it has 2 or 3 different ways to make fire. It has I carry a little bag of Vaseline soaked cotton balls. And then these are some sort of little wax impregnated little sawdust type things. I think I got these for Christmas from one of the girls at one time, but they do work well. I have used them. I've got an extra lighter. I always carry multiple lighters. I have one in my pocket every single day. I've got an extra a little small, like a little Boy Scout knife with a can opener on it with a little bit of tape on it. I always have tape wrapped around a lot of things too in the woods because it's real handy, and it also can be used as a fire extender. And then I've got 3 or 4 little pieces of rich pine in here as well, and that'll start a whole lot of fires.
It's like a natural fire starter for people that might not know. Other people call it fat pine, fat wood, lighter,
fat lighter.
Lots of different names.
And in this tin also, it has a little hole in the lid, and I use this tin. You can tell it's been in a fire. Use it to make char cloth with to start a fire with, like a flint and steel fire. And I've got some of that in this emergency kit as well, some char cloth and stuff that you can also make a fire that way. And I like to make a fire in multiple different ways, and that's a good. I don't do that very often, but I practice it some just to stay caught up, and stay polished on how to do it, because it's a skill that you got to kind kind of stay with in order to be able to keep doing it.
Where did you get that little tin at?
I don't recall that.
What would you, is it like purpose, would you find it like at a bushcraft place?
Yeah,
or is it just something you picked up?
No, it's actually purposed for that.
Yeah.
It may have also came from Self-Reliance Outfitters.
Okay.
In fact, one of the girls may have got it for me one Christmas. I don't remember, but works really well.
Yeah.
It's good to carry stuff in. Like I say, it'll make the char cloth as well. And then, of course, I've always got a metal water bottle that you can actually put in the fire. It's a single-walled water bottle, so that you can put it in the fire and boil water and to disinfect it if you need to. I also sometimes carry a Grail water bottle. I don't have it here with me, but you can, dip water out of the creek or whatever and boil it to disinfect it in this.
Make me some hot chocolate with it.
Right. And I always carry some bank line. It's just tarred line. Very strong, works well. You can even, if you need to, you can even untwist it and get the little individual strands out of it and sew with it, or do all kinds. It has a lot of multiple purposes, in other words, and it's really strong and it works really well.
You can get that probably at lots of different places.
Yeah, you can. I think probably that also came from Self-Reliance Outfitters. I have a lot of their stuff because I like their stuff.
Yeah.
They have things that kind of geared toward the things that I like to do, and a lot of places don't have that.
Yeah.
All right, a little further in here, I always carry an extra knife, extra belt knife, always. This one is a Mora Companion. Now, it's been used an awful lot, but they're very inexpensive knives, but they're very, very good, durable, comfortable knives to use too. I have several of these, and they take an edge really well. Their steel is really, really good, and this is a $20 knife, and for the quality and the durability of it, you can't beat them. And I have very expensive knives that I use quite a bit and I like, but I always end up using these a whole lot too, just because they're just made so well, especially for the price point. And I just keep one of the girls' hair bands around it just for to keep it in the sheath and keep it from coming out. It actually snaps in the sheath, but I'll just put that on there as a little bit extra, and that actually is just a hair band. All right. Also in here is a tarp, and I don't remember exactly the size of this tarp. It's probably a 7x7 or a 9x7. I can't remember.
What's the brand there?
It's a One Wind. And they make pretty good stuff, and I keep it. If you had to have a shelter, if you ended up having to spend the night out of this bag, this would give you shelter. And I have multiple ways of making fire, and I also have a way of disinfecting water. So, you could actually spend the night out of this bag if I needed to. I don't want to, but I could, and that's why I carry this.
It's also handy for us when we're out hiking and if the ground's wet, it might have rained or it's damp, and we don't want to we're going to sit down and rest, but we don't want to get wet.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have, within this bag, I don't have, I have shelter, but I don't have any blankets, sleeping bags, or anything like that, of course, because you can't, it's not big enough. But with the clothes you have on your back and the ability to build a fire and the ability to create shelter, you could spend the night, and it might not be comfortable, but you could survive it. You could keep the elements off of you while staying close to a fire, and you could make it. It wouldn't be fun, but you could make it. Whereas if you didn't have this stuff, it'd be a whole lot tougher.
Yeah.
And I also always carry some kind of a hatchet or an axe, or this happens to be a tomahawk, and I use it simply because it fits in this bag, and the bag's pretty full. And this is, I think, a cold steel tomahawk. And once again, inexpensive, but for what it is, it works pretty well. And this one has, I have cut the handle down on it to fit in this bag specifically. It comes with a much longer handle, but I don't need it any longer than that for what I'm going to do with it. It sharpens really easy. It has a hammer pole on the back of it, so you can, whatever you need to do with that. If you needed to drive stakes in the ground for your tarp or whatever, you could do it with that. You could also make the stakes with this, and in conjunction with the knife as well.
Get firewood.
Yep, and it works really well. It's, like I say, it's inexpensive, and I cut the handle down to carry in that pack, and it works well that way.
Would you explain, I think you put I see your initials MP, but
Yeah.
I think you put the marks. Explain those marks, what
Yeah,
they
these
are.
are just measurement marks, 1-inch increments. If you had to measure something in the woods, it's just like carrying a ruler, but you've already got it on another piece of equipment. It just gives you the ability to measure something. If you had to cut stakes for a lean-to or something like that, and you needed them to be close to the same, you could use this to measure them and get them the same.
How did you get them on there?
I actually used a propane torch and a 16-penny nail and measured these and marked them with a pencil in advance, and then got the nail hot and just burn it into the wood.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Real simple. Worked well. I did it before I cut the length of the handle off, so I had much more measurement then. But it's not something that's really used a lot, but if I do need it, it's there.
Kind of gives it a decorative touch too. Not
Yeah.
that matters, but
No, it don't matter.
but
it
for
does look
me, I
pretty
see
cool.
that. Yeah,
But
it looks cool.
it could be used for
Yeah.
to measure it, anything that was within this length.
Right. Yeah. Neat.
And I also have a little collapsible wood stove, and I really like this thing. It works really well. It's probably going to be really nasty because it's black and sooty, but maybe she'll forgive me getting her table dirty.
Well, we do I plant flowers and do all kinds of stuff on this table. It'll come clean.
And it's just a little cook stove that you can put together, and you can actually use twigs and cook on the top of it. You could boil water, you could cook, put a little pan or a little pot on it and cook, your lunch or your supper on it. And it goes together fairly easy. It's just really dirty.
I think we have a video using this. Is this one of the videos we went and you made me breakfast?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I see the soot on your fingers now.
Yeah, it's gonna get all over me. I don't think in that video we explained anything about this, so I will in this one, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And it goes together pretty easily, and then it has these little cross pieces that go across the top. And then there you go, you feed wood in this little square opening. It has a little floor inside it, and get your fire going. And then here on top of it, if you needed to disinfect water, you can actually put this water bottle on it and boil water. If you've got a little pot or a pan, you can cook on it. And it folds down into, like I say, the 1/4 inch thick at the most, and then this width and length. And you almost don't know you have it.
Yeah.
And it works really well. I enjoy using it more than, I've got the little gas bottle stoves and stuff like that, but this one's, I just have more fun with this one.
That's because too, it's just handy to use whatever little scrap of wood you find.
Right.
Yeah. I guess did that come from the Pathfinder too?
No,
or
this one, I think I Amazoned this one.
Okay.
And there's all different
Brands
types and
types.
sizes and brands, and this just happens to be the one I got, and I'm trying to remember the brand of it, and I don't see it on here anywhere. I don't remember what it is.
We'll try to find it.
Yeah, we'll
put
try to
it-
find it and leave a
put it
link
on.
in the description. And then I have in here a little cook set that I use in conjunction with that stove. And this little bag, I don't know where it came from. It didn't come with this. It's just a little
storage
bag
kind of thing.
And what this is a little Stanley cook set. It also has a little Pathfinder cup. I use it because it all nested so well together. This is the Acorn Stanley cook set, and you can tell it's been used. It's burnt. But inside it folds down and makes a little pot. And it has a lid. And it also comes with 2 little plastic cups.
Very handy for hot chocolate.
Oh yeah, it works real well.
Or for
hot
other
chocolate.
stuff, soup, whatever.
Yeah,
broth.
I've cooked soup in it. I've cooked oatmeal in it.
Yeah.
I've cooked grits in it. I've disinfected water, made hot chocolate. Works really well. The handle stays stationary once you open it, and then that way you can handle it and turn it and move it, and it won't fold up on you and end up spilling something on you and burning you. And you just squeeze these in to close it back up.
Works good.
And you've got the 2 little cups that go with it. And I think there's all kinds of YouTube videos about hacks about these things, and I've never really used any of them. I just use it like it is. It seems to suffice for me. It works well. The lid actually has little holes in it to where you can, if you're cooking rice or something like that, you can pour the liquid off of it and leave the lid on it.
Yeah.
You can pour it through the holes.
And then eat out of the container.
And then eat out of the container.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
And then the other little cup is a Pathfinder cup that actually came with this water bottle. I'll just keep it nested with the Stanley cook set just because it goes together so well. And it also has a little lid that has the
same
little perforations in it where you can pour the liquid off. And it snaps on and stays on pretty good. And the little cup has handles that fold out, and you can use it as a cup, or you can use it as its own little cook pot over the fire. You could use like a toggle or something, or they actually make like a little fish mouth spreader that will hook to this thing, and you can hang it over a fire from a tripod if you want to, with the lid on it. That's what these little slots are for. You line those slots up with these little holes in the side of it. I don't know if you can see those in the camera, but anyway, it makes its own little pot, or you can use it as a cup. So you got a cup here, and actually a cup in this one with 2 cups inside it, or you can use either one of these 2 as pots and have the 2 little cups inside. So it's real versatile. And it's very inexpensive.
Yeah, and handy to how it all.
Yeah, and it all works really well. And of course, I've got a couple of sporks. This one's plastic, and this one actually Katie got me. This one's a little stainless steel one that I really like, and it actually has a built-in can opener in it.
Neat.
I didn't really know that, but it works really well. So all this goes back together, and that's quite a bit of gear to go inside this little bitty bag. But also in the bottom of the bag, I carry a large ferro rod and another lighter.
So for people that don't know, explain the ferro rod.
It's actually a ferrocerium rod, and it's just a rod of magnesium, and I think it has some other metals in it. And what it does is you can scrape it with something sharp, and you can do it one of 2 ways. You can scrape off little shavings of this into a pile and then strike it really hard, and it will actually create sparks and ignite the shavings. Or you can get little wood shavings and little small little fibers of wood that's good and dry. Generally I use fat wood or rich pine, and you can I strike this with the back of my knife, and it throws sparks into that little pile rich pine that I've shaved off, and it will create a fire. And in that way, you know, you're saving a resource. You're saving your lighter, you're saving matches, and there's thousands and thousands of strikes in these things. So, and they work wet. You can pick this thing up out of the creek and it'll still strike. And I have multiple ones of these. I carry one of these in my pocket every day along with a lighter. So every day I leave home, even when I'm going to work, I have 2 or 3 different ways of starting a fire. Generally I don't need it, but if I ever do need it, I have the means to do it.
I guess you can get those at any place probably, I mean, or fairly.
Yeah, these big 6-inch ones with the, you know, the big diameter ones, they, you know, Bushcraft stores, camping stores,
Yeah.
I think has them. I think this is actually a Self-Reliance Outfitters one.
So what about, I notice on the end, is that part of like a handle, or is that something you've done?
That's something I've done. That's Gorilla tape that I've wrapped around it, and it, you know, it serves 2 functions. It gives me a handle to pull against. You know, if you strike this thing really hard,
It could come out of your hands.
it wants to pull it out of your hands, but this creates a handle. But it's also a fire extender. If need be, I could unroll this stuff and ignite it with the rod.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cut it up and scrape on it and make the little fibers in it smaller, and use it as a fire extender, and it will actually, you can strike that with the rod and create a fire.
I guess too, you could unroll it and just use it to hold something together if you needed to.
Yeah, and I do that a lot. And of course my lighter has Gorilla tape
more.
wrapped around it. I got into the habit of that years ago, and I've actually used that more times than you'd think.
Yeah.
I have a lighter in my pocket with that on it right now, and I also have a small ferro rod in my pocket that goes with me every day. And right there they are. And it's the same thing. It's a small rod, but it has the tape on it as well. And so does my lighter that stays in my pocket every day. I've just got in the habit of doing that, and it's very useful. I forgot about this.
See what's inside this one.
Okay, inside this one, like I say, it's my fire kit that I carry on my belt. And I generally don't use this one. I just want to have it with me in case I do need it. And a lot of this stuff will change over time, you know. You find something different or something you want to try, but right now this is what I'm using in it. I always carry some form of a large piece of cotton cloth, like a bandana or whatever. I think this is, I don't even know what this is, but it's like a dish rag or something, but it's made out of cotton. You can make Ferro charcloth out of it, and you can use it for all kinds of different things. And it's just something handy to have, and it don't take up much room. And I also carry a little fire kit within that is just some small pieces of fat wood, another cigarette lighter, another small ferro rod with the tape on it, and a little piece of steel wool. And steel wool's quite multifunctional as well. You can actually ignite steel wool and start a fire with it, or you can use it to clean a knife handle, clean a gun, all kinds of different stuff. You can actually use a piece of that bank line and tie a loop in the end of it, put some of this on the end of it and pull it up tight and make a ball of that steel wool and pull it through your gun barrel and clean it. It has all kinds of uses, and I just it don't take that much room, so I always carry it.
Fancy little can you got there, Altoids.
Yeah, just a little Altoids. Now, the Altoids tins are handy, handy.
Yeah, anytime any of us have them, we save them for Matt.
Yeah, I've got bunches of them. Okay. Next in there, I always carry a little extra cordage. This is 550 paracord. I use lots and lots and lots of this, and this stuff actually, inside this black sheath, it has smaller strands that you can pull out and use if you need something really small. You could sew stuff with it, or you can do all kinds of stuff with it. But it's fairly inexpensive, and I always carry extra hanks of it. Once again, another cigarette lighter. And then this one, this is an old pellet gun tin. And in it is a magnifying lens for starting a solar fire. If you hadn't ever done that, that's a pretty neat thing to do. It's pretty fun. This is actually the big lens, or the bottom lens, out of a pair of binoculars that I didn't use anymore, and it's like a 8 power. So as long as the sun's shining, you can start a fire with this. If the sun's not shining, you don't use this. But if you do get to use this, then you've not expended any resource. In other words, this is a fire you can start for free. You don't have to. You're not using anything other than the power of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So
I never started a fire, but me and Paul used to play with them and try to burn holes in paper, like on the sidewalk, on Granny's sidewalk.
You'll do it just in a few seconds.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
We like to do that.
And I just keep it wrapped up in a piece of cloth inside this little tin because it fits it really well. And what else do we have? And inside this tin is some char cloth that I made with a little piece of flint rock. And I use it in conjunction with a piece of an old file that I broke off, and you can create sparks with this rock against this file, and it'll throw the sparks into the char cloth. This happens to be, I think this is cotton balls that I charred. Get an ember onto this, and it will burn really slow, and it will burn for several minutes, just an ember that you can then transfer into a tinder bundle and blow into a fire. If you didn't have anything else, I mean, this will start a fire. It works. I've done it. It's just old technology, and I, from time to time, will practice this just to keep practiced on it. I don't use it. You know, if I have to have a fire and I'm in an emergency and I need a fire, I'm using this every time because it's easy. But it's good to know this other stuff too, in case that's all you had. You know. And that's pretty much it in that fire kit.
So really, when you take it all out, it's pretty amazing, everything that fits into that bag. It's really quite a lot. I guess when you think about carrying it like me, I just think about pushing it all in a duffel bag and taking off, but you've really thought about how to make it fit well and pack well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want a big bunch of bulky stuff hanging off of me when I'm in the woods, and this seems to pack down pretty well. And then a lot of times I'll carry a backpack in conjunction with this too. If if we're going to be
all day,
or if we're going to be cooking, going up into the woods and cooking a bigger meal, I will carry this, but I'll also carry a pack with some other stuff in it too. But yeah, it packs down pretty small, pretty easy to carry. It's not very heavy, and it just seems to work well. And you just experiment over time, and this is what I've come up with that I use for now, and it works well.
It works well for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good to be prepared.
Right.
It's kind of like I know you well enough to know it's kind of your nature, whether
Mm-hmm.
you want to be prepared. And likely, like you said, in what condition would you ever need all that fire stuff? But then, you never know what's going to happen. So,
Right.
So then you would have it.
If you're gonna be away from home and away from shelter and away from heat, especially now this time of year when it's cold, which we do. I mean, if you're going to be away from that, then you need to carry multiple ways to build a fire. Even in the summertime, but especially in wintertime, fire is key. It will keep you warm. It will disinfect water. It'll cook your food. It gives you peace of mind. If you get injured and you are in an emergency and you can't get out of the woods on your own, and it gets dark. I mean, it also gives you light, which will boost your mood, even though you're in a emergency situation. And it just gives you peace of mind, along with all the other things it does for you. So fire is number one to me, even above water. Water's number two, but fire is the number one thing that I make sure that I always have. Being around town and all that stuff, I'm never going to build a fire. But in the event that I had to, I could.
Yeah, and you never know.
And if you don't have that stuff, then it's going to be much harder.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's just the way I look at it. I'm just a preparedness-minded kind of guy, and I always have been. I wasn't taught this; it's just my nature.
Yeah. Lucky for us, we live kind of, as far as water goes, in the land of plenty.
Right.
It'd be, I mean, people in other kind of climates wouldn't, would have a different outlook. Like you said, you figured out what works for you.
Right.
But there's pretty much nowhere you could go here that you couldn't find water.
Right. Right. And some source of water that could be made into drinking water. I mean, either through boiling it or, like I say, I also have a Grail water bottle, and and I use it quite a bit, especially when it's hot in the summer. You know, if it's 85 degrees and you're in the woods, you don't want to stop and build a fire just to disinfect water, so you can use the Grail water filter, or you could use a live straw or whatever to get your water. But this works just as well. You could do this no matter what the temperature was. You can always boil water, you know, as long as it's not coming out of a nuclear plant or something, you know. But around here, you could pretty much, you may have to pre-filter it. In other words, if it's got heavy particulates in it, get those out first, and then boil it, and you're going to be pretty well safe.
And I've watched Matt do that before with a bandana.
Yeah, I use if it's, especially with a Grail that's got a filter in it, I'll always pre-filter the water. And it just, what it'll do is just get the heavy particulate matter out of the water before it gets to the filter, and it makes your filter last longer.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing what you carry around in your bags. I even learned something, and I'm usually following along behind you a lot of times when you're carrying the bag through the woods. I just know Matt's got it all took care of, so I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But really interesting, and for anybody that likes to be outdoors, or anybody that hikes, of course anybody that hunts, those kind of things. But really handy to have things, like you said, to start the fire. I love the little stove, of course, and the pots and stuff, because I've drunk hot chocolate out of them many a time, and Matt's made me some tasty meals on them, so those are some of my favorites. But very nice. If you have any questions for Matt, you could leave them in the comments. He'll try to answer them. And we don't really have any links for a lot of this stuff, but the Pathfinder, we'll put that link to that store.
Right.
And then I think the others, you can find them pretty easily online if you just do a search and search for them.
Right. You can find them in multiple different places, and I do sometimes. In the beginning, I bought a lot of the Pathfinder stuff because I know it to be good stuff. I'm not sponsored by them or nothing. It's just they make good stuff. Like I say, this is not his. This is a Stanley cook set, and it works really well, and I enjoy this most of all when we're out in the woods cooking. I just enjoy using that because it works well.
So we hope you enjoyed this video. We hope, as always, you'll continue to drop back by and help us celebrate Appalachia, which for us, as a family, is a whole lot of being in the wonderful outdoors.